So you know a little bit about us now, and so we wanted to get a little bit of a sense for you guys. Oops, didn't mean to do that. So Caitlin, do you mind posting the link to the Mentimeter in the chat so we can get a sense for who is, I went the wrong way. Can you get a sense for who is teaching which grade?
Sure, one moment while I finagle my own screen.
I'll give you one moment to go ahead and vote. Looks like some people are still coming in. We have a lot of elementary school teachers here, which is great. Caitlin and I are the coordinators for the elementary schools, although we do work very closely with middle school and high schools. I think that might be everyone now. So let me see if I can go ahead and share the slides again. The next question I'm going to ask you guys is whether or not you've used UDLib SEARCH before. I know that it varies from person to person what you teach. So if you have if you could answer this one question about whether or not you've used UDLib SEARCH before, and Caitlin, again, if you're able to put that in the chat, that would be great.
Molly, you might have to go back to the Mentimeter screen and toggle to the next question.
Am I still?
You have to just go to the next question for, yeah, perfect.
Oh, this is great. It looks like we have a lot of people who are users of UDLib SEARCH, which is great. I think that's probably most people who have gone ahead and voted already. So the weird screen sharing part of this, I'm going to go back to our slides and make it a little bit easier.
So that's interesting, right? Because as we met, the four of us, we kept wondering, out of everybody that would be here, you know, what the numbers would look like. So that's great to see that the majority of us have used it. That's wonderful.
So to give you a lot of you have already used it. So to give you a little background, if you're not aware of it, UDLib SEARCH was founded in 1997 by Dr. Sandra Millard, and it is funded by the Delaware Department of Education, and you know, Caitlin and I are both involved in this, so you can see that library staff are the ones who are supporting this program. All four of the coordinators are from University of Delaware Library. So these databases are free for you to use. They are not free resources. The Delaware Department of Education provides us with, I think, about $500,000 a year in order to provide these resources to you. So we really want them to be used. They support activities for you know, activities and research for all K through 12, and I see that you guys are all represented here, and provides access to a variety of types of materials, so magazines, journals, encyclopedias, ebooks, and also our training programs. So I have to do another screen sharing here, but the things I'm going to show you are our website if you haven't been there yet, and guide you to our training sessions, topic guides, our trial databases, and also our database tutorials. So if you haven't been to the UDLib SEARCH website before, this is what it looks like. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Our training sessions are going to be available under for educators. So if you want to set up a training session, you can reach out directly to Caitlin, myself, Diana McKellar, or Aaron Dex. Our topic guides are located also under for educators. There are things such as biomes, even Hamilton. If you want to take a look at our topic guides that are already made available, they're created by Delaware Public School teachers. The other things we have available are at the very top level of for educators. It's a little confusing because it drops down for you at the top of for educators. If you scroll all the way down, you'll see that there are database tutorials and upcoming webinars. If you would prefer not to have a training session, you are welcome to learn how to use these databases on your own. So you can scroll through those and learn how to use the databases yourself. There are webinars and also training materials. Lastly, I'm going to show you our trial databases, which is located under news and updates. We do not have any on trial right now, but for the fall, we do have a couple EBSCO databases that are going to be available, and those are very similar to our Gale databases. So you can please use our trial databases and give us feedback in the fall. And that is all I have. I want Caitlin to have more time to look over or to present to you guys. She's going to cover our databases. So hopefully you are seeing the right screen now.
Perfect. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you, Caitlin. Passing.
Thanks, Molly. So I'm just going to very briefly talk about our databases. We have over 50 databases for grades K through 12. So obviously I'm not going to individually talk about every single one. We just don't have the time today. To help, I have created these two charts. One is for elementary schools and one is for middle and high schools. And basically what the charts do is they kind of walk through exactly what the databases offer. A lot of them are pretty much the same. You know, you're going to find kind of encyclopedic articles, newspaper articles, but some of them offer specific activities and games that you might be interested in utilizing. So that is linked onto the PowerPoint that you have access to via Sketch, but I'm also going to just pause for a second so I could grab those links for you as well, and I'll drop them in the chat in 1 second while I kind of, again, finagle my screen. So many links to copy and share with everyone. Okay, so hopefully you have access to that, but like I said, it's actually linked onto the PowerPoint, so you could get back to this later, and feel free to share that with anyone that you would like to. So we have over 50 databases. I'm gonna really just go into one for each grade level and very briefly talk about what I like about those databases, and then you could, of course, find out how Ben and Mary Grace actually use them in the classroom. But I do just want to very briefly mention before I hop off and show you our actual databases and go in there and do some visual exploring, that we will have a new database coming this fall. It's called PebbleGo Next. So for those of you who are in the elementary school level, I'm very excited about this. PebbleGo Next is technically for grades 3rd through 5th, and it kind of is a step above PebbleGo. I know Ben's going to be talking a lot about PebbleGo today, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, but PebbleGo is made for K through 12 grades, or K through 2nd grades, excuse me. And it's a really great database that kind of introduces different concepts. It's really laid out well for the younger grades. PebbleGo Next is just a step above that. So it has a higher reading level. It has a little bit more advanced content. And before we really didn't have too much that kind of for students who were kind of in between those levels of reading. So we're really excited to offer PebbleGo Next. That's going to come in the fall. So if you are on our mailing list, keep an eye out for information about that. But if you're not, then your librarians and media specialists will share that with you. Okay, Molly, would you mind stopping your screen share and then I'll take over? I'm going to pause for a second and ask if anyone has any questions before I start. Okay. All right. So we're going to go back to the UDLib SEARCH page. So I hope so many of you are familiar with our databases already, but if you're not familiar with them, or if you've never used UDLib SEARCH before, you access our databases by going specifically to our website, or if you're on ClassLink's Clever Schoology, I believe you use ClassLinks though, we are actually findable through a little tile through those different platforms. So students can actually click into and be directed to the UDLib SEARCH website from those platforms. As you probably have discovered if you've been using UDLib SEARCH for the past year during the pandemic, or over a year at this point, we are we are accessible automatically through actual public schools. So if you're in the building of your school, you automatically get access and are able to jump into our databases. If you are at home, we do have a username and password that you have to have and remember. It's pretty easy. The flyer for the username and password is also shared with you via Sketch. We do just ask that you don't put that on any public facing sites. We kind of go off of the honor code system for our username and password. So you're more than welcome to share the physical flyer with parents or guardians, but we just ask that you don't put it on your school's website or that sort of thing. So just share it through a password protected site. So you'll see me, I'm at home right now, so you'll see me logging into all of these databases using that username and password. So all of our databases are set up and divided between elementary, middle, and high school. Our middle and high school pages are very similar. They really are, they're displayed exactly the same way, which I'll talk about in just a second. So we have all of these really wonderful databases that, again, if you consult the chart that I created, a lot of them do pretty much the same exact thing, but they each have different features that you might like a little bit better. So I'm more of a PebbleGo and WorldBook Kids fan versus I have other colleagues who are more of a Britannica fan. So it's kind of up to you. So yes, we do have Spanish material, which I will actually talk about in a second, because WorldBook Kids has a really fantastic array of Spanish material. As you can see, I'm logging in using the username and password since I am at home. And so all of the databases are set up kind of in a variety of different ways, but they all kind of resemble the same thing, which is really great for continuity for students and to get them used to the layout of a database since they're going to be using it so heavily throughout their entire schooling. So I really like WorldBook Kids. I think it's set up in kind of a fun way. It always has these pictures in the background that if students don't know exactly what to research, they're more than welcome to click on a picture that kind of captures their attention. Down here, as you can see, we have all of these really great activities. So there's a world of animals, there's specific activities like different matching games, coloring worksheets, that sort of thing. One of my favorite features about WorldBook Kids is this compare places feature. So you compare different US states. So it's always fun to compare Delaware with like Colorado and have students look at the different geology and different state facts. They can also compare everything. And then there's also really fantastic science projects that are already within the database as well. And it lays out exactly what materials you need and how to go about that science fair project. So very quickly, I'm just going to show you what an example search looks like. So if you type in, whatever you're researching, I'm partial to snow leopards. So most of our databases have a read out loud feature. Some are a bit nicer than others because they're a little bit more computerized sounding. If you scroll down, there's a link here that says you can get more information about this topic in Student. Student is a step above grade-wise database for WorldBook Kids. So you can actually, if you think that the student is a little bit above this reading level or they want to find out additional information, you can actually jump right into that other database, which is fantastic. The other thing that I want to point out in here are curriculum standards. So almost every single database that we have allows you to actually pick specific curriculum standards if you're looking for activities. Some databases do it a little bit better than others. It kind of depends. So you have to play around with that feature. I do want to just hop into, I think Airplanes has it. So some of these databases also have a Spanish language feature. We have an entire database that is dedicated to Spanish language, which is linked onto that elementary school homepage. But some articles, not all of them, but some articles actually have that ability to link to that database directly. So this one in particular, as you can see, you can actually jump into that article and it will be translated into Spanish for you. Hope that answered your question. Okay, I'm gonna pop back to our UDLib search site and I wanna go to the middle school page. So again, middle school and high school are very similar. Pause for a second. Okay, great, thank you. They're very similar. They're set up with our kind of multidisciplinary databases. That's what we like to call databases that have a little bit of everything in them. So these are primarily the same for middle school and high school levels. As you can see, we actually link to both on the page. And then down here, we have subject-specific databases, as well as electronic ebooks that we have access to. So we try and break them out into specific subject areas so that it's easier for you as teachers to find the content that you need. I'm a history librarian, so I'm also going to mention that all of these have primary sources that you're able to use as well, which is a really great for social studies classes. So I'm going to pop into SEARCH Issues Researcher, excuse me. Our elementary level version of this database is SEARCH Discoverer. They, again, operate on exactly the same level. Not exactly the same level, but they operate in the same format, I should say. But I really love showing Issues Researcher for a variety of reasons. The first one is that they're really great at comparing pro-con analysis and doing a deeper analysis on specific topics that you see that are trending up here. There's also a variety of different editors picks every single month that are really, they're updated bi-weekly. So you're getting, information and content that is actually up to date on a particular issue. So let's say someone's interested in researching social media. What they do is they have a great summary about that topic. And then there's 2 viewpoints, and they actually link articles for those 2 different viewpoints right here. You also are more than welcome to find additional sources. They always have a visual literacy picture that also has critical thinking questions aligned with them. And then depending on the topic, they also usually have timelines or additional information and activities down below. The one thing I really love about SEARCH Issue Researcher is that there's this research guide for critical thinking. It is not available in the Discoverer platform. I've been begging the database company to actually do that. I think I might have to stop sharing my screen for a second. But for the interest of time, basically it is a topic guide that kind of lays out how exactly you write essays. So some teachers will actually take that guide, change it. You can see it's available in a document format, and then they could, make it their own. You can basically break out the different worksheets for a particular week at a time. So it's a really great resource that I do want to highlight. The only other thing that I do want to say, just in the interest of time, so for the high school level, SEARCH Issue Researcher is high school and middle school, but we also have a number of different Gale and context databases. Gale did a really great job of making sure that all of their database platforms are actually cohesive looking, which is helpful because it looks the same on the elementary school level as it does when they get to college. So they feel a little bit more comfortable in those databases. it pretty much does very similar searching abilities as SEAR's issue researcher and discoverer. There's a variety of different types of sources that come back within both of those databases. So you get newspaper articles, encyclopedia articles, you get primary sources. There's a variety of different types that come back. The one thing that I do want to point out in Gale, though, and this is relevant for Britannica as well as World Book, but there's also a link to the curriculum standards down here at the bottom. It is not in the elementary school version of this. Again, I've complained to Gale about not including that in the elementary school version. But again, it's another way for you to get to content that's specifically mapped to the state standards that you are directly teaching with. So in the interest of time, I'm going to stop talking because I know I am at my time limit. Just as a side note, a lot of our databases also are integrated with Google Classrooms. So you can actually save articles, and this is on the elementary through high school level. So you can save articles into your Google Classrooms, and then you could highlight, you could have your students highlight, they could make comments, annotate it. So you have a little bit more of a different interaction with students as well. So that was a very quick and dirty overview of our databases. So I apologize for throwing a lot of information at you, but this is something that Molly and I could do on an individual level. We can meet with you individually, especially if you have assignments that are coming up that you particularly want to look a little bit further into our databases to see what you have. Molly and I are available for that, as well as our two other coworkers as well. We also do group training sessions. So if an entire grade level wants to meet with us, we're more than welcome to set up a time together. So I'm going to stop talking and I will pass it over to Ben. Oh, I'm sorry. I do see, did you say you could save, not only save articles, but also link to articles in Google? Yes, Julie, you can. So there is a Google Classrooms integration. You'll see it at the top of the databases. There's a way that you can sign into your Google account, and then you can actually save the articles to Google specifically. But with that being said, there's also a way that you can actually pull the stable URL in every single database. So you could actually just plop that link that we have in the database and give your students the direct link as well. So if you don't use Google Classrooms, you can still share an article directly by sharing that link. It's usually a cite or share feature.
So Caitlin, can I add a couple of things just as an avid user?
Please.
Some of the bells and whistles. Every database is going to look a little bit different. Look for icons. Look for the Google triangle. Look for downloading to iCloud, because when you click on those links, it will open possibilities to download into Google Classroom or Google Drive, and it will import it in. Sometimes they go in as a PD, and sometimes they go in as a Word, Google Doc. You could always, once got it in Google Drive, you can manipulate it very easily to become a Google Doc, and then you can highlight things and cut and paste and copy and do all kinds of wonderful things with it. If you use Noodle tools, all your citations are done. You're at the end of every article with a click of a button, and it's an icon as well. You could click on Noodle tools and the student can import all their citations into Noodle tools in a matter of seconds and minutes. And as far as the language, just about every article in the databases, and I've used elementary, middle, and high, you can click on the translate button, and there are over probably 30 languages that it will transfer to automatically at the click of a button. And then that student, I'll tell you, there are some little kinks in it though. If you do the translate, and if you translate first and then put it in your Google Drive, it'll come in English. But then when you're in Google Drive has a translate tool, and it also is full of different languages. So if you're ever working with ELL students and they are completely lost, You can give them whatever they need in Google Drive, and then they can click on translate and put it in their language as kind of a bridge to get to where they need to be. So between Noodle Tools for citations and Google Drive for downloading articles at the click of a button, you can cut their research time in half easily, easily.
Thank you so much, Maria. I really appreciate you chiming in and letting us know how it works on it. You know, Molly and I are not, because we work on the collegiate level, we don't get to use the databases as you get to use the databases. So we always really appreciate the chance to partner and talk to all of you who actually are using it, and to discover ways that we can tell other people, you can download it this way. So thank you so much. And please, if others have other ways that they use it, I would really welcome hearing that just from a coordinator standpoint. So I am going to turn it over to Ben, but feel free to ask additional questions.
All right, thank you, Caitlin. So this is the thing I love about UDLib SEARCH is that, even though I've been using it for quite a while, I learn new things all the time about it. And there's a lot of stuff that Maria just told me about that I didn't even know it was capable of. So I'm just going to kind of go through and show you how I personally, as an elementary school librarian, have been using it in the past. It's always changing. I never do the same things exactly, step by step wise every year the same. I changed around a lot, but there's some common things that I do that I'd like to kind of share with you guys as to what are kind of my favorite things. So I am, as Caitlin kind of told you, I'm a really big fan of Pebble Go. It's technically, yes, for K-2, but I find that it's something that you can use all the way up with my 5th graders. There's, just a lot of really good information. And I just love how user-friendly and how simple it is as far as its layout. Usually, like with my youngest grades, I give them the opportunity to do a lot of exploring, like in K and 1. That's going to be changing, obviously, as we're, there's more and more emphasis put on technology, but usually they get to the really heavy research in my library by the time they're about 2nd grade, where they really start, delving into the databases and start finding information and reporting on it. So I always start with Pebble Go Animals with my kids. And one of the cool things about I'm trying to think and type at the same time, is divide up all of the different animal classifications into just these neat little categories. One thing that I did have to find out early on is that you can, when you're presenting, you can get rid of the sounds here, because as you see, when you hover over everything, it talks to them. And that's great when they're trying to find things, not so great when you're trying to walk them through sites and the device is constantly talking over you while you're trying to explain things. So it's nice that you can actually turn this off. One of my favorite projects to do I'm really excited to get into this again, is the kids always are really interested in the dinosaurs. And when I first started using UDLib SEARCH, there was probably about, I don't know, I want to say like 20, maybe 25 different species of dinosaurs that they could look up. And what we would use it for is we would create an actual physical timeline. We would make a long timeline, and I would assign groups of students to research a particular dinosaur, and we would kind of make a little information card, and we would physically put it onto the timeline, and you can kind of see the different dinosaurs that existed throughout prehistory. Now they've been expanding on this, and I think the last time that I checked with these dinosaurs, there are over 120 different varieties of dinosaurs on here. So it's really amazing. If you're doing something on like extinct animals, there's just such a variety for the kids to choose from. And it's got really good information. That's the thing that I really like about it. Another feature about Pebble Go that I love is when they are doing like dinosaurs, for example, the different sections are pretty uniform as to the kind of information that is how it's laid out. So if you're trying to get them to give you specific information about like what kind of food did they eat, how long ago did they live, they should, regardless of what species they choose, they should be able to easily find that information. So I can kind of just show them one, and then they can apply that to however they, you know, whichever species they decide to get. So I think it's an incredible resource that they've just got so many different varieties of species in here. And it's not just in dinosaurs with the animals, they're expanding it all the time in here, which is what I love to see, because when you have just, you know, just a small number of things, they, you know, get frustrated a lot of times if they all have to do the same exact species. So it's really cool like that. The other thing that I really like to do is, I'm going to go over to Pebble Go Science right now, is they have ecosystems in here. And one of the things that we do in the younger grades is we'll have them research, and then they actually have to build an ecosystem. And they have to include certain features like certain types of vegetations. They have to build certain kinds of animals and explain to me why their ecosystem is, for example, like a rainforest. What makes it a rainforest? And they have to show me the things that they built based on their research. So I think that that's really cool. Also in the science here, the one that they always really get interested in is the extreme weather. They're always really fascinated by all of the, like the different hurricanes and tornadoes. And we use these a lot of times to create like kind of a brochure that shows you like tips for, you know, how to stay safe during a blizzard, how to stay safe during a hurricane. And they go and they research this information, and they use the Google Docs, and they kind of just make like a pamphlet that kind of tells people, this is what happens with, like, you know, in a hurricane, and this is how you stay safe, because all of that information is included in there. So that's another one that I think is really cool. Let's see, what else? Biographies. This is one where I really like how they've expanded the variety of them, because one of the things I struggle with as a librarian is we get different grade levels. There's multiple grades that do biographies in my building. And the one thing that we struggle with the physical copies is finding appropriate reading levels for all of our students. And a lot of them, we have a ton of the Who Was books in there, but, you know, I've been told by a lot of teachers that, you know, they're too long, or too, you know, the wording, the vocabulary is just too challenging for some of our students. And I have some lower level ones, but they're not as easy to find. It's not as easy to find, like there's the rookie level biographies, but there's not as big a variety as like the Who Was in those. So the thing that I really like about Pebble Go is there's so many different types of famous people that they have in here. And again, they kind of lay out the information very similar in all of them. They talk about their early life, what they've done later on in their life, their contributions. So this is kind of a good alternative if they're having trouble finding a book that they would like to do on a certain person. So this is a really good resource. There's also more in World Book Kids that I'll show you in a second here. The final one that I do a lot of stuff with is social studies. There's a lot of cool information on countries and continents and landmarks, long ago and today. What we do with landmarks is a lot of times what I will do is have them research and look at, again, the general format of like, what does it mean, who built it, the history, and we'll kind of have them try to come up with their own landmark and so use the same kind of format, you know, why is it important? When was it made? You know, you just kind of design something like that. They get stuck. Then what I do is I have them get a landmark and I say, what would you add to the landmark to make it even more interesting to people? So that's a really cool one. The other one that I really like is long ago and today. We will do research on the, you know, different like food then and now. And after they've done their research, we'll do, well, you know, let's speculate on what will the clothing or the food of the future look like, you know, and let's try to, you know, come up with something that you think will happen like maybe 50 or 100 years from now. So they kind of have fun with that one too. So there's a lot, again, there's a lot of really cool things in here to do. One thing I just wanted to go back and show you with like the animals too is this is great for the younger kids. Trying to see if I can, I don't know if I can get to it without, while the screen is sharing. Mary Grace, do you know an easy way for me to get to where they show like the worksheets and things?
Sorry, I know I'm not Mary Grace, but
That's okay, whoever.
Are you
I
talking
can't
about
get to
the
it because my
activities?
share screen bar is blocking it.
Are you talking about the activities?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yes. Okay. There, I'll put the, hold on one second. Let me see if I can drop the link in.
Here.
Ben, you can also take your share link screen and make it move to another part of your screen.
Can I get that out of the way?
Yeah, there's an arrow button up there somewhere. It'll either move it to the top or the bottom.
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So this was something, by the way, Maria, thank you for speaking up. This is how you find like the citations too, where if they're doing research, it's so easy to find the citations on virtually anything that they're doing. I love that feature about it, especially when you're teaching citations. It's a very easy way for them to grab them, but also like the activities section, what I was talking about here too, is they have some really great general pieces of information here that you can use, you know, if you want to do actual worksheets with the kids on things. I've showed this to some of like the second grade teachers in our building, and they really thought this was a cool feature that they didn't even know was in there. So the last thing I want to share.
Ben, do me a favor, go back to that form for a second, since we have a minute. I know it says PDF, but it gave, when you clicked on the form, it gave you an opportunity to download it to your drive. Can you
Right, yes.
click on that next to the print button at the top? I just want to see what it looks like. All the, to the right,
I see
yeah,
it.
that one. Oh, you can download it. Okay.
Yeah, so not all of our databases do have the Google Classroom integration, and PebbleGo is one of them that I don't think has that, you know, seamless download option.
Say, Caitlin, you keep saying Google Classroom, but I don't think we're, maybe at the elementary level, in my experience in high school, we don't use Google Classroom, we're using Google Drive. Are you using Google Classroom in elementary, Ben?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, you could do the same thing with Google Drive. It's still that same integration. It's that same, you know, you can log into.
So the workaround is you take the form and download it to your desktop and then drag it into Google Drive.
Right.
Okay. Because then a teacher can manipulate it once they put it in their Google Drive.
Thank you for correcting me. There's so many of the school districts that I work with are using so many different things. So when I apologize for saying Google Classrooms for when you don't use it, but it's the same thing for Google Drive as well.
No apologies. I just don't want everyone to start thinking somebody else is using Google Classroom and they're doing without for some reason. So yeah, you guys are all over the state, so you have 10 times as much to remember.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. There are also but not everyone is using class links as well. So some are still using Schoology and Clever. It's a lot to keep track of.
The last thing I just want to share really quick is that once we've gone through everything in like Pebble Go, I always transition over to Worldbook Kids at that point. And I just naturally go into the things I'm not going to go into any detail with these, with like the world of animals and the comparing places. Kids love to do that. There's really cool projects that I will do based on those. One thing I did want to share really quick, if you have students who are a little bit more advanced and are looking to do a biography off of the databases, this kind of takes the biography research to the next level from Pebble Go biographies. The other cool thing about this too is, let's just go into somebody here, Lou Gehrig. In addition to the information that they have here, they can get more information about it in the Worldbook student. They'll have it'll link them directly to it so that they can go in and get even more information on their person here as well. So it gives you, not just the basic overview like it has like we just saw in Worldbook Kids, but you can get, even more information by being directly linked to another database within UDLib Search. So that's kind of how I use it. I could go on and on about stuff that I do, but those are just some of the basic ways that I use it. I'm always learning new tricks and tips about things, so I'm always tweaking what I do, but I just think it's such a great database. And one thing that Mary Grace and I were talking about when we were getting ready to do this is, one thing that we love about UDLib Search is, unlike a lot of kid-friendly sites, there's not any ads that are popping up. They're not going to be redirected to sites that may or may not be appropriate for them. So it's totally safe for them to be using these databases and getting, not just getting research, but just kind of clicking around and exploring it. There's not anything that they're going to click on where it's like, oh, gee, I don't want them to be going into this in Pebble Go, for example. So we really like that feature, that it's not something that we have to worry about as far as, anything popping up that they shouldn't be looking at, really. So that's all I have right now. I'm going to turn it over to Mary Grace. And you're going to be talking about some of your project-based learning.
Yeah. Great. Can I share, Ben? And the other thing is UDLib Search is sitting in the kids' class links too, so it makes it really convenient for them. Norma, I'm not going to put you on the spot because I only have a couple minutes, but my activity has everything to do with what we collaborated and did together. Okay. So Norma's a second grade teacher here at Mount Pleasant, and I wanted to, she did an Unless project through the Philadelphia Zoo. And so I wanted to throw some technology tools Norma's way for her students. And I also wanted to promote using Google assignments. And we were able to do that together. So what I did, and I know I don't have a lot of time, and I'm going to run through this really quickly, is first I needed to give the kids, I wanted them to think about project-based learning. I wanted them to think about the outcome of the technology tools that they would create. And I knew a lot of them were kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing when I'm in here. They've never seen a Google assignment before. and the different tools they would use. So I created a project and walked them through it like this, and I shared it with them, right? So it was like, here's your Unless project. They would have like a Google slide, the template, I'll show you in a minute. I pushed out to them in Google assignments, just a blank template. Then I, had their own All About Me page. Then they were also able to, whoops, sorry about that. I'm going to move us over here. Then their information page, I did mine based on the horseshoe crab to give them the example of problem solution. And then they would have like their own little page that would be what's the problem with their animal that Ms. Denham assigned them during this Unless project. And then they would have to come up with a plan. They would also have a citation page. And then they would submit it back. So I know if that doesn't make sense, let me show you the template that I would push out to the kids using Google assignments, okay? And notice that I'm not going to go into present mode because with this, my speaker notes would come through Google assignments to the kids. So now it's time for them to, do all the work on their slides, okay? So the first slide they would have to do would be this little, little tablet cover. They would just add their name, and I say that in the Google, the speaker notes, just add your name. And then they would, second slide, just simply says this is where you would add your information about your animal and species, right? Saving the what? And then here is their All About Me page, okay? And this is where it's time for them to brag, and they have it personalized, it's the activity for them. And then again, it teaches them the different tools while they're bragging about themselves, right? So time to brag, this is your space to introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you. Be creative. So what I did is I slipped in a screencast here showing them how they can take their picture right here in, and it's not going to work because we're on Zoom, but it teaches them how to use the camera, take their picture. And then I also, in that screencast, also showed them how to use Explore to find different pictures about themselves. I don't think my screencast will work. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So, got my little instructional video from the So does that make sense to everyone that I was, I'm incorporating those tools so that if they get stuck, they're always used to me, like making little screencasts and things like that, but it doesn't stop their learning, right? They can do this on their own time, pushing an activity out in Google assignments. Every child gets their own copy of this. So they can't necessarily mess up what I'm pushing out to them. I mean, they can, but I can re-push it out to them again, if they really distort it too much. But embedding all the different tools is key. And 9 times out of 10, and Ms. Denham can attest to it, we didn't really have a lot of kids that were like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing, because they had the tools right at their fingertips, right? And again, they could go back to my horseshoe crab example. So next page is for them. Now explain what your focus is for this Unless project. What is your animal and species, and why is your animal / species endangered? And then again, speaker notes. Explain here why your animal is endangered. What was the problem in your own words? I've included the Unless project. So again, I'm linking additional resources for them. And the Unless project at the Philadelphia Zoo really narrows down how the contest works. And then next page, again, this is where UDLib SEARCH comes in. So they would, I said, UDLib SEARCH is a perfect resource to help complete this slide. It's in your class links. Remember, here's the username and password, off you go. So then in class, they would have time to go through the different databases in UDLib SEARCH to see if they could find as much information as they could about that animal. And then here, let's create the plan. Remember my horseshoe crab slide, included a plan for that. And I found a really cool one on helping sea turtles. And again, it follows that same kind of structure of problem solution. And the last, and then here is my citation page. I'm sorry if I'm going quickly, but you guys have another one to go to. And again, I always want them, here's my important citation. If it's not my work, I can't take credit, give the credit to those who deserve it. And again, UDLib SEARCH lends itself to, the easy citations. At first, kids don't know what that is, but once they see the citations in UDLib SEARCH, they're like, oh, that's who gets the credit for that. That's who did all the work, and it starts making sense. And it allows them to really see how important it is to give people credit for their work. And then again, the last thing they have here is in Google Assignments, they submit it in the end, but you can always push it back if they're not done. But as a, prior to them submitting, I like them to get in the habit of just sharing it with the teacher so that she can look over it and push it back and add comments and things like that. So I hope that makes sense. But that was very quick and dirty. That took about 7 minutes, and I could have gone longer, but I hope it gave you guys a taste of Google Assignments, always incorporating those tools in the slides. Use those speaker notes, right? Because the kids are going to use them. And that was very quick and dirty, I have to say. I hope it made sense. Norma, I thought it was really successful when we did it with your second grade.
It was great. It was great for me as well for the, this year, not being, learning all of this myself. So you really helped our whole class be able to take it home and be able to follow all your screencasts and they could follow along with very little questions. So it was really helpful. And then they were able to use some of the UDLib, incorporate that right in. So it was great.
Yeah, if you front load the activity, you put a lot of time into creating those slides and those screencasts, you'll thank yourself in the end because you're putting the onus on the kids, right? They're responsible for, you've shown it, done it, talked about it, when everything went through it with them, they personalize it. And they were really proud of the final outcome of theirs. So, okay, any questions?
Can you share that slide, your template?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. You know what? I'll put it on when you guys go to Sketch, I put all of the slides that we showed this morning with the Bitmoji classroom, that's on there, but I will stick that template in there and have at it.
How long will we have access to that Sketch stuff?
I think it's going to be there for a while. I think she'll keep it up because I think what they're going to do is people that didn't attend today can maybe get pip and trade in hours by going through and selecting. That's why we're recording. So I think it's going to be there for a while. There's no reason to really take it down.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Everybody good? Great. Okay. You guys need to hop to your next. I'll make sure I do that. Thank you, Caitlin, Molly, Ben.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
for all your collaboration. And again, reach out. They will come to you, in a form of Zoom or any other way.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, everyone.
All right.
Okay, see you guys. Have a wonderful